is getting ready for their lunch. And right now, we will delve into SportsRap Podcast. Sixers Talk approaching the restart July 30th for the NBA. We are also back Facebook Live, so everybody come on back, chat with us, chop it up with us. Now, we know, like I mentioned earlier, we got 17 days until the start of the new NBA season. 17 days. Long awaited. Long awaited. I mean, I was actually excited over the 4th of July, over the holiday weekend, or the 4th of July weekend, when the TBT started. And at least I had some basketball to watch. And of note, it was extra special. Leak, what's going on? It was extra special because there's a Philly team in it. Somebody that I know very close was coaching. Again, shout out to Kyle Sample. Congratulations to you for that run. Unfortunately, it didn't go the way you guys wanted it to go, but nonetheless, Kyle, you are definitely making a name for yourself. I'm proud of you, youngin. Proud of you. Keep it up, okay? Now, getting back to this, like I said, basketball is coming back. 17 days. Teams are in Orlando. They're getting practices in. They're going to start their training. Media, they have selected media that is actually staying in the bubble as well. And there's a lot of things going on in the bubble, a lot of mixed views about the situation. So, you have players on a lot of teams that have opted out. Some star players for some teams that have opted out. I mean, others are injured that can't play, wouldn't play anyway. But there are others, star players or key players for teams that have opted out because of the uncertainty. I'm not going to necessarily call them scared. I'm going to say the uncertainty. Okay? Because we know it's here, so there's no reason to be scared. It's just the uncertainty. Talking about the Sixers, and one of the things I liked about this particular person's comments, not only because I like this person as a player and as a person, and although I think he could do a lot more on the court, one Joel Embiid. And not initially, but in this whole thing, Joel Embiid's mind frame was that he was not completely sold on the restart of the NBA. Okay, he's not really sold on it. But I love what he said, and I'm paraphrasing, so bear with me. What he said was he was not comfortable with it because he didn't think that everyone there was going to follow the rules as they're supposed to. And I totally get that. Okay? But what he went on to say was that he's going to go. He's going to do his job. He's going to represent for the city like he has been doing for his career. And just because of his uncertainty, he's not going to neglect the city, neglect his job. He is definitely going to go. And just a little bit from him, and I quote, I hated the idea. I feel like with everything that has been going on, it's unfortunate what's been going on in the world. Obviously, people look at it in a different way. There might be some other reasons behind everything going on. To me, that part never mattered. To me, all I want is to stay healthy and stay safe. No issues with that. Keep the people around me safe. No issues with that. I want to make sure I'm able to live for a long time and not have any sort of consequences in the future from this if I were to be in a situation where I was getting the virus. End quote. I applaud him for that. Again, he goes on to say, and I quote, unfortunately, I'm not a big fan of the idea, but then again, I'm going to do my job. I'm not going to let the city down. I'm going to represent my city. That's what I've always done. My family, my teammates. The mindset doesn't change. It doesn't matter the fact that I don't like the idea and I still don't believe in it. I don't think it's going to be safe enough. So that's just a little bit from, what Joel Embiid said. But like I said, I applaud him for being open-minded.
He always was like that.
And here we go. What about this? Using some common sense.
Yeah, that's my thing.
I praise him for that, and I just said that, and I'm sure it's people tuned in and listening like, well, why did he say something about Joel and common sense? And You should have listened to what I said.
Mhm.
I told you that he said he has not been in favor of the idea. Okay.
I mean, he must have did
Sure,
his homework.
no, okay.
Yeah.
But still, just in favor of that. And like I said, because he preempted it by saying that he didn't feel like everyone was going to do what they're supposed to do. That's common sense.
Yeah, he's telling the truth too.
You know, it's truth. That's real.
Man,
Because,
keep it 100.
like we talked about, or I talked about when this pandemic first started, I've been places in public
Right.
where I've seen people use the restroom and not wash their hands.
Yeah.
I've seen people do other things and not wash their hands. So I get what he's saying. And to me, it's common sense, because he also went on to say, although I don't agree with it, I have a job to do and I'm going to do my job.
LeBron James said the same thing.
You can't be mad at that.
Right. Why?
You can't be mad at that. There's no way you can be upset with this man for saying that he has an issue with the bubble, because he backed it up by saying he's going to do his job. And I've seen pictures. He's there. Seen him on the practice court. So, nothing wrong with that for me, you know. So, other players have also had concerns. You know, it's a lot of players that have had concerns. And like we said, this is where...
Is that Westbrook one of them? I mean, because was Westbrook one of them?
I don't think so. But this is where we talk about how people are who they are. Okay? Josh Richardson has some issues about it as well. But he's also there. These guys are doing their job. Okay? Now, I've just got to chime in. Deshaun Jackson has just accepted an invitation from a Holocaust victim to go and talk with him. So, see, he's doing everything. And just to piggyback on that real quick, when we talked about Riley Cooper, they didn't send Riley Cooper to the African American Museum.
Right.
Riley Cooper didn't go visit Elijah Muhammad. He didn't go see anybody, Al Sharpton, anybody, talk to them about anything. He got an extension on the contract. It's just my little knock up. That's all. It's just my little soapbox, okay? Yeah, it's just my little soapbox. So, you know, Josh Richardson has high expectations for the team. He was another who was not actually privy to what was going on around the situation. And I'm looking at the angle and where I want to go. So I want to start with this before, and the last thing I think I'm probably going to get into is we're going to talk a little bit about the 8 games that the Sixers will play for their seeding.
2 more weeks.
Yeah. So one of the things says Shake Milton and Ben Simmons pick and roll could be in the near future. I don't know what a lot of people think about that. Now, I am a Sixers fan, but I also am a basketball fan. I'm a basketball coach, a former player, and a referee. So I constantly look at basketball a lot differently than most. Okay? So I can see a Ben Simmons, Shake Milton pick and roll. Because of their size, because of their skill set. It's possible. You know, I can understand where Shake Milton says that Ben Simmons makes the game so easy for everybody else because he's so quick with the ball. He's so decisive, and he wants to make the passes. He's a willing passer. He'll make the passes. So that's one thing that could possibly work out pretty well for the Sixers. More development with Furkan. Got to pick the spots now. It's money time now. You got 8 games to maybe jostle up from that 6th spot. So you got to do it strategically, Brett Brown. You got to play your spot. Yeah, you got to pick your spots, and you got to take advantage of what you have on this roster. They talk about Joel Embiid's media appearance, his first on concerns and playing in Orlando. I mean, Joel's going to be who he is when he comes to talk to the media. He's 22, 23 years old. You have to accept it.
I think he's like 24.
He might be 24, but he's still young.
Yeah.
So his playfulness is something that goes along with his age,
He's like
with his age demographic. Well, Shaq was just a fun-loving guy. Shaq was still somewhat silly, for lack of a better word, when he was older towards the end of his career.
Yeah.
But that's just Shaq's nature.
Yeah.
And I think Joel has a little bit of that nature in him too.
That's what he
But I'm putting it now on him being 20-something years old.
Footwork, like a lot of
And like I always tell people when they talk to me about Ben Simmons and Joel Embiid, I always pose this question to people. And they say they're not doing this and they're not doing that. And some of the stuff I agree with. But overall, in the big picture, I like to pose to people when concerning these two guys. What were you doing so perfect at 24, 22, 23 years old?
when I was 22. I was
Nobody can honestly give me a true answer of what they were doing perfect. So I'll leave it at that. But you get my point.
Yeah.
You know, you kind of get my point. Michael Hunter, thanks for tuning in. You get my point. 22 to 24 years old, it's a lot of play there. You know what I'm saying? You take away that they're professional athletes, so the play might not be as much as we would be as the average Joe. But it's still there.
Yeah.
Still there.
Yeah.
It's their age demographic. It's in them. Okay? A lot of people are expecting, including himself, Joel to turn a page in his book, start a new chapter, and dominate as he should. I for one, am actually anxious to see that, because some of the greats have said that if he gets focused, he could be the best center in the league. He's arguably the best center in the league right now.
Yeah, he stay on that block.
But
Yeah,
he could be the best center in the league.
by far.
Okay?
Yeah.
Now, you just said stay on the block.
I understand.
I don't necessarily need him to stay on the block. I want him to do a lot more work on the block. Because of the makeup of this roster,
Right.
there is going to be times, possibly in transition, maybe in the breakdown of a half-court set, where he might be at the three-point line. But I want him to be selective. I trust him shooting that shot, but again,
make it, but-
I want him to be selective.
Right, right.
Like, I want it to be in those situations. If it's a transition and Ben's pushing it and nothing happening, he's attacks the rim, Joe's
open,
trailing
yeah, he's
because
open.
he's got the rebound and he's
Yeah.
wide open, let that fly.
Yeah.
If the half-court set breaks down and because of the rotations you happen to be out at the three-point line and it gets kicked, you're wide open, shoot it. I don't want you to catch the ball at the beginning of the set and work the guy and settle for that three.
Yeah.
If you're at the top of the key in the beginning of the set,
Yeah.
I want you to give it up
Like a set
and
shot.
work yourself down.
Imagine
Not
that.
even set shot.
Yeah.
I want you to give it up at the top in the beginning of the set, and you get it. Which that play that I hate that the Sixers do. They come down, Ben Simmons hands it off to Joe, and he comes back around and gets it back. They said you do the same thing with TJ. I hate that
Yeah.
because that's where he gets caught up in shooting that three.
Yeah.
If you get in that situation, I need you to tell Ben to give it back or swing the ball and then you go down low.
Right, right.
Like I said, I need you to be selective,
Right.
very selective with that three-point shot.
Carl.
Like I said, hey, what's going on? I'm glad you tuned in, I know you got some stuff to say about Mr. Embiid. But again, like I said, I need you to be extremely selective in that three-point shot because I don't want you to get hung up on it like you have in the past.
Carl, he's not online, but before we went on our breaks, he said he think Ben Simmons gonna lead the bubble in 3 points.
I don't think Ben Simmons is going to lead the bubble in three-pointers.
He said
In my opinion, I don't want him to shoot the three right now.
he might be working on that thing.
I don't want him to shoot the three. He's so big, so fast, and so strong.
Transition, he could kill it.
I think if he got a mid-range jump shot, or if he shot the mid-range jump shot,
Unstoppable.
he would possibly
DJ
be
Smith said it. He
he
said
would
open
possibly
road.
be
Be
unstoppable.
like LeBron, almost.
He would probably be better than LeBron.
Probably not. Probably.
And I say that because
Younger, hungrier, better
he's
footwork,
younger.
better footwork.
He's younger. I can't say he's more of a basketball cerebral than LeBron just yet.
Better slasher.
But his potential of consistently wanting to make the right basketball play, in my opinion, could eventually give him an edge over LeBron. Not now,
No,
but eventually.
maybe.
You know, and it's also the age thing too. So I say eventually.
He's younger, yeah.
But I don't need him to shoot the
3-pointers.
3-pointers right now.
If it's
Okay?
there, take it.
Like I said to people before,
Right.
way back when, in my opinion, Ben Simmons is not a point guard. He is a guard. He is playing point guard. So I think he's a forward. He's freaking 6'10".
Yeah.
I mean, the only ones that had the true skill set that I can remember, or most recently that were that close to that size, were Magic and Jalen Rose.
Imagine.
Because they played point guards their whole careers.
College.
If you look at Ben Simmons, he didn't play point guard until he got to the pros.
Yeah.
So he's playing point guard in my opinion. And in my opinion, as a coach, under the tutelage of my uncle, Skip Moore, who is tuned in right now, I need my point guard to be the extension of me as the coach on the floor.
Right.
I need my point guard to be able to control the situations when the half-court set breaks down.
Right.
When there's nothing in the transition, I need him to know to pull it out and run a play.
Right.
I also need
Like CP3.
my point guard to instruct my big, get down on the block. That's where you're going to get your money. That's where you're going to earn your money.
I wanna see him
Get on the block.
That's what I told everybody.
But hear me out.
All right.
Okay? It all goes into play. Now, I also need my point guard to be able to shoot a mid-range jump shot. Because if you know anything about basketball, a mid-range jump shot is a foul shot. 15-footer.
Yeah.
And in. It's a foul shot. I also need my point guard to be able to shoot free throws. Because late in the game,
Yeah.
you're going to have the ball.
Yeah. You're going to get fouled.
Okay? And the way the NBA is set up now, you don't shoot high. They're going to foul you. And they
Yeah,
can
that's
do
what I'm
that thing where you don't even come to the ball. You could be on the other end of the court. They'll foul you and you'll shoot free throws. You make 1 or 2. I need my point guard to be able to make free throws.
You got it.
Okay? So that's still a work in progress in my opinion. But if you flip that and we go back to what we talked about in the very beginning, the Shake Milton and Ben Simmons pick and roll, or even the Ben Simmons, Joel Embiid pick and roll could be very scary.
Better than John Stockton, Karl Malone?
Yes.
I couldn't stand it.
Yes.
Most especially-
And the reason I say that because they're more athletic.
Yeah.
Okay? Joel Embiid, although I don't like it a lot, he can catch at the foul line and take 2 dribbles and get to the bucket.
Yeah.
As opposed to me wanting him to be on the block more and dominate on the block.
He's big. He's like 7
But
foot.
Ben Simmons can do the same thing.
He's 6'10".
They both can get to the cup. They can Euro step. They can dribble, handle enough. They handle enough to get their shot.
Yeah.
So their pick and roll could be very scary.
Right.
And now you have Burkhoff, the shooter that you really didn't have consistently. You got Furkan Korkmaz, who's growing.
Byron Harris, right?
You got Tobias Harris. I'm going to get to Tobias Harris in a second. And then you got Shake Milton. So it can work.
Right.
And it could be scary.
Right.
Okay? Now, speaking of Tobias Harris,
My wife like him a lot.
I like him now,
Yeah.
but I need Tobias Harris. Or like I said, in my opinion, I need Tobias Harris to show me that he can be an all-star. He was almost an all-star with the Clippers before he came here.
That's it, yeah.
But I need him to be a lot more aggressive in specific or certain moments of the game.
Yeah.
Where I think he does things, but I think I need him to do it more. He needs to be more concerted aggressively at attacking things on the court.
Right.
So, and bottom line, it's all on Brett Brown. He's the one that's got to put it together.
He gonna get fired if they go out and
It's a possibility. I don't know. It's been a lot of chatter.
How many rounds did he keep?
It's been a lot of chatter. In my opinion,
He has
he's
to take him to the final.
he's got to go out. If he's got to go past the second round initially first. That's my first thought.
Right.
But if I had to give it a learning curve, he has to go through that second round, kind of like the Toronto series that they lost in game 6, 7. But you got to be more aggressive. You got to go out fighting harder than what you did in that round. That's just my opinion. That's just my. I think they would have won the chip too. I think this 8-game session is going to bode well for them. So before we end up, let's get through this. We're going to get through this kind of quickly. All right, we're going to go through these Sixers. There are 8 games for seeding. All right, so if you didn't know, the 22 teams that were invited to the bubble were all the teams that had a chance to make the playoffs.
Right.
All right, the teams that were definitely out were not invited. Okay, Stan, thanks for tuning back in. So again, like I mentioned also, you've got teams that have key players that have opted out or are injured. Okay. Other things have happened. You have some teams that have key players that have tested positive for coronavirus. Okay. So each team is going to have 8 games to play to either possibly keep their seed or jostle a little bit, move up, move down, whatever. And then there's going to be teams that are close that will be able to sneak in if they can or whatever. So Sixers' first game against the Indiana Pacers.
That's a tough match.
Scrappy team, but no Victor Oladipo.
That's why he.
No Victor Oladipo.
He hurt, right?
He opted out.
Oh, he opted out. Yeah.
So even with what they have on the roster,
That's not good.
I think Malcolm Brogdon opted out too, or Malcolm Brogdon had tested positive. Malcolm Brogdon tested positive for COVID-19. So you don't know his status yet. You don't know if he'll be there for this game. But all in all, with the Sixers looking the way they are,
They gonna beat them.
I think they can take this game. That would give them some wiggle room with the Pacers because they're like tied around with the Pacers with that 7th spot, 6 or 6 spot, whatever.
Yeah,
So I think beating them would do a lot for them. Game 2 is against the San Antonio Spurs, who are without LaMarcus Aldridge, who injured. He went under surgery. So
They got Pop.
yeah, but Pop ain't playing.
Yeah, true.
Okay. And I'm not taking nothing away from Pop. I love Pop as a coach.
Me too.
But again, like I said, the bottom line, Pop ain't out there on the court.
Right.
Okay? So I think with the Sixers' makeup of their roster, where they are extremely super lengthy, all the way across the board, they're lengthy.
Right, they'll beat them too.
I think they can beat them. The Washington Wizards, we know we can beat them because they were just barely in the mix. They're one of the teams that were fighting to make it up to the top to get into the playoffs. Another one, the Orlando Magic, Game 4.
They can beat them too.
I think they can beat them. Orlando Magic really doesn't have any star power. You have a questionable star in Aaron Gordon, but his consistency is a little shaky. So I can't really put him as a legit star. I say he's a potential star.
When they start playing Miami,
Okay.
That's when the competition. Miami good.
I don't know. Then you go to Portland. That's going to be a tough game. The uncertainty, I'm not sure if Dame is going to be there or not.
He said
He
he's gonna play.
But I remember, and I just watched it last week, they replayed that game on Comcast Sportsnet. Sixers against Portland in Portland.
Right.
Dame put in some work on us.
Right.
But the Sixers did what they do. Buck down and play defense like they do. They're one of the top defensive teams in the league.
Right.
So they bucked down and they ended up winning that game at the end. So that's going to be a tough one. I don't know about that one. Again, I think the Sixers' length will have them in that game. I don't know. You just don't know where Dame may be and CJ may be. That might be tough. The Phoenix Suns, up and coming.
They're not ready yet.
As far as players makeup of the roster, I don't think they're ready. I think they're still too young. But the safety blanket they have is their head coach who used to be here with the Sixers, Monty Williams. It's just that. That's just it. I mean, like I said, I don't think they're mature enough yet to make a serious push because of their age, their youth. But again, I think their support, their backbone is going to be their coach, Monty Williams, who I think is an awesome coach as well. That was Game 6. We got Game 7, the Toronto Raptors. Always tough. There's no Kawhi Leonard there now. But always tough because they're just scrappy and gritty.
They're not doing
I don't know what their situation is with Van Vliet, but I think the Sixers can beat them. Finally, their last game, Houston Rockets. Tough one.
Probably take an L.
Tough one. They might lose that one. But hopefully, looking at the other 7 games, When they get to that game at the 8th and final game, it might not mean much. It might not. It might not mean. I don't know. I hope they slide. I want them to slide up to the 3.
Like it was it last year?
It was like 5 or something. I want them to slide up to the 3.
No, last year
I want them to bump.
third seed.
I want them to bump Boston and move up to that 3
Yeah,
seed.
that was the 3 seed last year.
And then they would probably end up playing Indiana in the first round, and then they would probably get the Bucks in the second round. And I think they can beat the Bucks. It's just what it is. I think they can beat the Bucks. Yeah, they beat the Bucks on Christmas Day. And I mean, you talk about the makeup of the Bucks, and everybody put them as far as the contenders, the favorites to come out of the East.
Maybe.
You look at it on paper. If I had to just look at those, if I looked at their rosters on paper, without the team name, knowing what I know today, and just looked at the roster, knowing what I know about basketball, if I had to pick between them, just looking at the rosters on paper, I would pick the Sixers still. Just because of the makeup, and like I said, just because of the makeup of the roster, I would pick them because of what the skill set and the talent that the Sixers have on that roster. I would actually pick them a little bit over the Milwaukee Bucks. So we got 17 days, and then it's all going to be what it is. So I think the outlook for the Sixers, it can be very bright.
You got a prediction?
I'm not making any predictions. It's too shaky for me right now because, like I mentioned in the very beginning when I first started talking about the restart, there are going to be some sloppy games. And there are going to be some upsets there, but there are going to be some sloppy games to start. You know? So, and then you've got teams that are jostling to get in that are going to bring their A games.
Minnesota?
You know? So, for me, it's tough right now, so I'm going to stay away from making a prediction other than saying that I think the Sixers have a really good chance. It's just got to come together. It's just how I feel about it with the roster.
Lakers versus the Sixers.
It's somebody predicted that. I think one of the guys on ESPN, I think it might have been Kenny Smith or Charles Barkley, that predicted them, the Lakers and the Sixers. Because with what they have, like they showed, they went out to LA, they beat the Lakers here, then they beat the Clippers out there. So they split with both of those teams, the top 2 contenders in the West. They split with them. So they can beat them. Okay. In a series, I don't know how I would go with either one of them. I don't know how I would go with either one of them in a series. It would be just tough. It would be a hard-fought series. It would probably go 6 or 7 games with both teams. It's just how I feel. But I think.
Good. Media love it too.
You know, but all in all, I think the Sixers have a great opportunity in front of them. Again, with the makeup of their roster, with the addition of Ryan Burkhoff, I hope that they use that adjustment and keep it because it worked well for them with bringing Al Horford off the bench, who appears to be okay with that. And I think that would help the Sixers a lot because I think Al could be that glue on that second unit with Furkan, Shake Milton, a few other people, Mike Scott. You know, so I think that the Sixers' outlook is very, very bright. And, you know, it's going to be tough. Like I said, it's going to be tough because these guys haven't actually played basketball in months. So anybody that has played a sport, if you lay off for a month, you're going to be rusty. Like we said, there's going to be some sloppy games. We talked previously in the past about the poor refereeing in all the sports. We're going to see some of that as well because the referees got to get back in shape. They got to get back used to keeping up with the speed of the game and the speed of the players. So it's going to be a bumpy road the first 3, maybe half of the first 3-4 games of this 8-game seeding. Then I think the guys will get a rhythm.
You think he's going to stop it?
Nah, I don't think so. One of the things I also like is the fact that they're all there. So that brings me to the point about the Sixers. We all know what they were. The best home record, not so good on the road. So now you kind of take the home court advantage away,
Nobody
but
home for advantage now.
you take it away from everybody. It's not like taking away from them solely. It's taking away from everybody.
No fans.
Maybe except for Orlando, that might have a little bit of comfortability because that's where they are. They're from Orlando, but they moved out of their facility and they're not playing their facility, so it's not really home court, if you will.
Right.
So
We'll see.
I think the Sixers have enough on offense, if it's worked right, to succeed. They definitely play enough defense when they're focused on it
You got
to succeed.
Right.
And I'm just looking for the best. I mean, I can't, like I said, it's too bumpy, too iffy with everything that's going on in the time frame of the gap for me to give a solid prediction. But I'm just going to stick with, I think that their future looks very bright in this restart. One other quick note, and I'll probably get to more of this next week maybe. We don't know what's going on with Zaire Smith, who was supposed to be a prospect for us. Don't know what's going on with his situation. He's been off injured, so we'll see how that plays out as well. And the question that I asked last week, or was asked last week, was, did I feel or did I believe that the winner of this restart, the championship, would it be looked at with an asterisk? And a lot of people brought up that 50 game season when the Spurs won it. There was no real asterisk there. I don't feel like it should be an asterisk on this because it was a stoppage due to means beyond their control. There's nothing they could do to stop it, unlike the other one where there was a labor strike.
Right.
So they had a play in that. This one, they didn't have a play in it.
Everybody
And again, the NBA has done everything, as far as I've seen, to attempt to make this a success, and I think it will be a success. So I think we'll have some good basketball when the playoffs start. Like I said, it'll be okay. The 8 games, they're going to be okay. They're not going to be great. They're just going to be okay, like I said, because guys are going to be playing to get the rust off. They got to get comfortable with the facility and things of that nature. So it's a lot that's going to go into it. So, again, finally, like I said, the Sixers, I think their outlook is very bright. 12:36, folks. That wraps up another episode, another show today. Thanks to everyone that tuned in and enjoy the basketball when it begins.
Right.
Lastly, folks, another scorcher today. If you don't have to go out, don't go out. If you go out, be careful, stay hydrated, drink your water, drink your Gatorade, whatever it is, whatever your choice. But stay hydrated, stay focused, stay safe. You know, now it's an ordinance. Every time you come outside, you have to wear a mask. And people, wear the masks. You know, you've seen the spike across the country, the spikes across the country. You've seen states open up too early and had to close back down. You've seen our own city had to put a slight pause on the green phase from last week because of some issues. So that's why now everybody has to wear a mask when you come outside. So do your due diligence, folks. Stay safe, stay cool, wear your mask. Enjoy this beautiful Sunday. It is lunchtime still. If you can get outside and find a spot of shade, get outside, sit in the shade, get some air. You know, I know people like me, I have to wear a mask for 8 hours a day at work. So I tend to take breaks and go outside and get some air, or go to a different part of the building and get some air because it's needed. So just be careful and be mindful about that. And stay safe. You know where to find me, at SportsRap_D on Instagram and Twitter. Facebook group page, Sports Rap Radio Show. The webpage, sportsrapradio.com. YouTube, Sports Rap TV. Please get over there. Check out the videos that are there. I'm going to have some videos up later this week from today's show. Also, hit the subscribe button. Like the videos that you like. There's a lot of video on there. There's a lot of footage on there. Please check that out. And lastly, Sports Rap Podcast on iHeart and wherever you get your podcast. Just search Sports Rap Podcast. My avatar will come up. The bald head guy with the beard looks almost exactly like me, so you can't miss it. Appreciate it. Love that you would do it. And I thank you for all your support. Thank you for tuning in. Stay safe, people. It's your boy D. We'll see you next week and all week on social media.
Yay! On heat.